Hello and welcome to another episode of the Trash Talk Podcast. I'm your host, JJ, and we have Smokey Rameriz from the Trash Talkers. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's good to be back on the Trash Talk Podcast. Oh, it's hot. It's hot. It's really hot here, JJ. I hope it's not as hot there as it is here in Atlanta. It's like 100 degrees there in the day. It's horrible.
Oh yeah, no, it's not quite that. It's like, it's not going above 30 over here, which is a completely different system, but...
Conversion. Yeah.
To be fair, I think 100 is like around like when fever starts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like a fever around here would start at like around 39, 40, somewhere around there. Like 36.8 is a regular body temperature, so like it's definitely definitely right now we had like the high 30s, so like getting close to body temperature like earlier in the summer, but like right now it's comparatively fine.
Oh yeah, ours is a good bit like 3 degrees above, but of course doesn't mean as much in Fahrenheit as it does Celsius. But that was, you brought up a point though that I've heard about recently, is that back in the day we always heard as kids that normal body temperature was 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, and now scientists are discovering that throughout time body temperature is actually dropping. And normal body temperature is no longer 98.6, but it's closer to like 97.7 or something like that. But it's crazy that, and it's supposedly going to continue dropping into the future.
Do we think that's... Wait, I mean, how long has that trend been going on? Now I'm thinking, is this a reaction to climate change, but it couldn't really be that quickly, right? Because my first thought was like, oh, if it's getting hotter outside, maybe the body's trying to compensate by not going as hot inside, but that doesn't really make sense because like tangible climate changes have only really been happening in the last 50 years, and biological adaptation doesn't happen that quickly. So that
maybe it was an adaptation to wearing clothes, but I mean, of course, there hasn't been some form of clothes for thousands of years.
I mean, yeah, the adaptation for clothes is just not having as much body hair. Unless you're Italian, in which case, whatever. No, but that's not... I mean, it's not really the topic as much as this is an interesting discussion. I don't think it's just going anywhere. If we actually had randomly started a really interesting discussion, I would have just said, like, let's keep going, but... I guess let's move on to the actual topic, though.
Maybe we can talk about that in a future podcast or something.
Yeah, I kind of bunched together two things here that seem related. Planned obsolescence and right to repair. I guess the opening thought is just like, isn't it kind of bullshit that sometimes things are built with the either direct intent of breaking after a certain period of time, or at the very least, only built to last a certain amount of time, and after that, whatever happens, happens. It's like the best case scenario.
I absolutely agree. I think that planned obsolescence is almost discriminatory in a way. People continually complain about losing the middle class, especially here in America. They talk about, we're losing the middle class. Eventually, we're going to have two classes. We're going to have the rich and the poor. But doesn't planned obsolescence kind of limit the middle class? Isn't that part of the reason? I mean, unabashed capitalism. Planned obsolescence is a symptom of unabashed capitalism, late stage capitalism at that we can manipulate the economy in such a way through planned obsolescence that only the rich people will be able to keep up with the changing trends. And if you're planning for your materials to break down over a certain point in time, I know it goes way beyond electronics and such, but I think in the long run, it actually helps get rid of the middle class. Hopefully that makes sense to you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's specifically the middle class. I think it's just the thing where it costs everyone more money. The less money you have, the more you notice that. And also, the rich people usually have stakes in the companies that make more money because of it. So it's like, anyone from the middle class down really is negatively affected by that. Obviously, the middle class then gets displaced downward, and if you already don't have any money, it doesn't really get that much worse. I mean, I know there's like a whole predatory loan industry, but at the end of the day, either you have money or you don't, right? And so there is that where I think it pushes everyone from the middle class onward down. I'm not saying there's more spending on the middle class, so inherently it kind of affects them a little bit more. Where it's like, the rich people aren't affected by it because they just have a lot of money, and also they make money from that because the companies are owned by them. And the lower class almost can't afford to buy anything to begin with, so there isn't as much there. And I guess in that case it does maybe hit the sweet spot for the middle class, but I think a lot of those things that are like making the middle class disappear are just hurting everyone that isn't rich. And it just happens to be more noticeable in the middle class because if you're already at rock bottom, it doesn't really know where to go.
Have you heard about this? What is it called? The Phoebus cartel. Supposedly, I don't even remember what year it was, but I heard about this not too long ago. That the light bulb industry, the leaders of the elite light bulb industry, I guess big light bulb, got together however many years ago, and they came up with this plan because light bulbs were actually lasting too long. So they needed to cap that so that they could keep the industry moving. Okay. Have you heard about this?
So, turns out, if you have to balance how bright your light bulb is versus how long it lasts. And so they collectively agreed that instead of going for about 2,500 hours, which would have been the normal at the time, they went down to 1,000. And the light bulbs are a lot brighter. You can actually now, because the cartel doesn't exist anymore, although actually it was deemed by some courts to not actually be illegal, because they actually had a good reason for doing it. And so there's still most conventional light bulbs, old school light bulbs, today most of it is LEDs anyways, and by the way, LED light bulbs last way longer anyways. But the actual, the old school, the, vacuum tubes with a tungsten thing in the middle, those actually mostly last 1,000 hours. The kinds that you would have in maybe an oven, those would actually be also 2,500. They aren't as bright, but they last longer because it's annoying to replace those. So in appliances, you might have longer lasting ones, but for the most part, if you actually want to light a room, we still have them at 1,000 hours because it's just, otherwise they're just very dark. And also, I think the tungsten breaks down faster, which also further clouds the glass, and so it gets even darker the longer the light bulb is around anyway. So, yeah. I've literally just seen a video on all the technical reasons for why there is, and it's actually not as bad as it sounds. There's actually a lot of good reasons for why they did that. It actually reduces power usage, and it makes light brighter. And actually, turns out, light bulbs really cheap. Power, even in America, comparatively to light bulbs, expensive. And so it turns out, if you do the math, actually having to buy 2.5 times as many light bulbs, still cheaper than paying the additional power it would cost you to run the light bulbs at a higher voltage or whatever, or less efficiently, so that you have longer lasting light bulbs.
A lot deeper on that than I thought. So you don't believe that it was some conspiracy, this big capitalist conspiracy, do you?
Well, the thing is, it's very well known, and it was fairly well known at the time, and no one tried to do anything about it, and there were actual legitimate reasons for it, so there are far more dubious things going on in the industry than that one. It's so clear-cut an example that it sounds like oh, they literally agreed to limit the lifetime. It's actually, this might be the only time in history where limiting the lifetime of a product was actually done for a good reason. And it's that sucks. Not that they did it, but that it's not as good as an example.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I've never looked into it. That's interesting. I've never really looked into it, but you would always see sensationalized things like YouTube shorts or Instagram stories or whatever they call them. You're just scrolling through and you're like, oh, there was a conspiracy to limit light bulb life, and then you scroll on to the next one. Never really thought about it too much until you brought up this topic of planned obsolescence. I was like, hey, that sounds like a good idea.
People have brought up how electronics oftentimes seem to break shortly after their warranty, and it's to the best of our knowledge, no one is intentionally designing things to break after the warranty period is over. But they also do design them to last for their warranty period, and it's if the product tends to survive long enough, if our testing says that it will survive the 2 years or whatever that we give warranty for it, then that's good enough for us. So, to the best of our knowledge, No one is intentionally shortening the lifespans, and also just not actively trying to expand them either, which is like...
Yeah.
And then where we do have a sort of planned obsolescence is software, right? Where even if... well, I was going to say even if your iPhone is still great, but actually those are, I think, fairly good at it, actually, surprisingly. But even if your... what was it? Oh, yeah, if your Chromebook, right? You buy a Chromebook, and it's like, if you're unlucky, that has like half a year of software support left. And after that, it might still be usable, but it's not technically secure anymore, and at some point it's gonna become less usable because, like, you don't get browser updates, and that starts breaking certain websites. It's like, those things, I think, when they're brand new, they get shipped with like 2 or 3 years of software support. It's like, oh great, after that it might still be perfectly fine hardware-wise, but just can't update it anymore. It's like, what the actual fuck? Also, why are Chromebook updates and also like phone updates that hard? Like, why do certain phones like not get Android updates anymore? It's like, I can get Windows updates on like any computer. Like, they figured it out. Like, it doesn't matter what hardware I'm running. Why do I not get updates for a software that is still being updated on certain devices? I'm sure there are some actual technical reasons for it, but it still baffles the mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I'm actually looking at this little strip across the top of my screen here that says your Windows 8.1 is no longer supported. Please upgrade. If you can't tell by the quality of my camera, I'm running on an old school computer here, and it's still running on 8.1, and I refuse to upgrade it because this thing still works. If it stops working, I will upgrade it. But as long as it's working, I'm not going to upgrade it. I will run 8.1 until this thing doesn't work anymore.
I mean, yeah, I will recommend for just anyone who has like an old Windows computer that either doesn't work anymore or that just doesn't have any updates, that doesn't get updates anymore. There is a Linux distro called Mint that is very similar to Windows. And for most people, that will be perfectly sufficient. You just install it. You're just going to use your Firefox or Chrome anyways, right? Like, you don't do that much other stuff. I mean, you maybe specifically do some other stuff, but it's like, you're not going to use that many different applications anyways. You're probably going to be fine. Because the browser works the exact same way on Windows and on Mint. And like, even if you do want to install other software, it's a little bit different, but like, you'll figure it out, right? It's not that hard.
Yeah.
I installed Mint on an old laptop that my father had. And that one was running Windows Vista before. And the problem was, he was trying to go on some website, and it wouldn't load properly, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll update your Firefox for you, it's fine. And so I checked for update, and it's like, oh, this is the newest version. I'm like, is it though? It's like, well, it is for Vista. And so, I installed Mint, and it's working fine now. So, Linux generally is a recommendation, but I think Mint is one that is probably easiest to get into if you're coming from a Windows background.
I may try that. I have a computer in the other side of the house that is running on Windows 10, and it's super slow. So it'd be nice to have an operating system that is not quite as taxing on the computer. That I can actually run decent programs on. Because this one, I can't do any video editing on this. I can do audio editing all day, but I can't do any video editing. It just is not powerful enough to
I will say, your computer doesn't become more powerful. It's a little bit more lightweight than Windows, so some things might run a little bit better, but
something that's not as taxing. Hopefully.
If it doesn't have the horsepower, it doesn't matter how optimized you run it, obviously. So there is like a limit. But it's generally just good to have everything up to date, because that way you don't need to buy like a Windows 10 license or Windows 11, which you probably can't run anyways because like TPM or whatever. Trusted platform modules. I mean, that's not really as relevant, but I guess that brings us a little bit into the second thing, right? Right to repair. Now, computers, great. Laptops, not always great, but like, desktop computing is usually fine, right? Like, you can replace parts. In any case, you can update your software yourself. You can install Linux if your Windows doesn't update anymore. Like, that's great. But other things, not so much. And I do think that's also like a big issue where it's like, okay, I accept that some things will break eventually, right? If I tear a hole in my t-shirt, usually in the armpit for some reason, like, I can just sew it back together, right? It's fine. I can live with that.
Yeah.
But like, if some farmer's tractor breaks, John Deere's gonna be like, no, you can't repair that. Wait a month to get a technician in. He's gonna charge you all sorts of money, and also you can't work your fields because the tractor's broken, and the harvest is gonna go bad. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
probably the most egregious example, just because of like, just how restrictive their program specifically was. I think in some places they're starting to get rid of it because right to repair law is actually coming to place. It's very restrictive. B, it can actually take quite a while for technicians to come, and of course C, farming is one of those things that's very time sensitive. So not having a tractor for a couple of weeks would be devastating.
Absolutely. I see. I don't know much about the right to repair laws in America. I assume it's just open. I mean, we live in an open and capitalist society, so I would think that it's open to repair. Parts, companies selling repairment parts.
Well,
but are there countries that specifically have these sets of law? Are there countries where you're not allowed to repair? Is the question.
The way this works, right to repair, it's not that laws forbid you to repair things. Usually the way this works is that, like in the US, there's very little regulation, and so the companies can lock down their devices to prevent user repair, right? If you replace your iPhone screen, it is not going to work. I think some basic functionality works, but like some functionality of the screen just will not work if you replace the screen. Even if it's an original Apple screen, if it doesn't have the ID that the original screen of your phone had, it will not fully work. Right? You can take two new iPhones, take the screens off of them, swap them around, and they will not work to their full functionality. Like, even if it's the same model. And that is just stupid. Right? Like, that's
what I hate.
Actively restricting your ability to repair things. And to the best of my knowledge, in most of the US, this is still perfectly legal. But the John Deere thing is also, again, it's mostly that the software prevents you from replacing parts. Right? As soon as you like open it up, the software realizes, oh, this has been opened, and just goes like, unless you entered like all the proper codes and had like, how when you go put your car in the shop, like they might like plug in some cables to like check the system, see all the error messages and everything, and like delete them. Like, if you don't do that, then the tractor just won't start up. It's like, oh, great. And so that is the problem. It's not that it's illegal to repair things. It's just that it's legal for companies to prevent you from repairing the things. And so the right to repair movement is about enshrining in the law that they can't do that, right? If you own something, which the companies are also trying to prevent, but if you actually if you own a physical good, you should be able to repair it to the best of your ability, or also take it to like independent repair shops and not just limit it to first-party repairs.
I actually would like to see some laws like that in America. But then again, there's also patents that could get in the way. A company could, like iPhone, they're just going to patent all their products and then say there are no companies allowed to make repair parts unless you buy directly from Apple themselves or, whatever. But
I mean, Apple does actually have an official repair program now where you can order replacement parts. It's almost as expensive as sending it in, so it's not really that practical, but they are starting to work on it a little bit. Some companies are starting to work on it because there's a lot of pressure, and for the most part, the companies that are now doing a lot of those like repairability things, it's mostly to preempt laws. It's like, hey, look, we're doing it freely, and you don't have to regulate us, right? Like the whole thing where I don't know if the film ratings in the US are that way. I think some places they are. Whereas like the film ratings are actually like a separate organization that doesn't have anything to do with the government. But they were like, oh yeah, we do rate our films. You don't have to restrict what we can show. And I know the Comics Code Authority used to be that. I'm not sure if you know about that, but they used to have like this Comic Code Authority seal of approval on comics books to like show that they were like kid friendly, basically.
I think I've noticed that before, but I never thought about it too much.
Because there was like this huge panic about like all the indecent materials in comic books and like the violence and it's bullshit, right? It's a satanic panic all over again. As a matter of fact, it might have been around the same time.
Yeah.
And so the Comics Code Authority was founded specifically, basically, to like regulate what you could and couldn't show in comics, and then stamp a seal of approval on there if the comic met its requirements, instead of having it be government regulated. Although the Comics Code, to be fair, was already fairly strict. And at some point, some publishers were like, "Hey, what happens if we just don't submit our comics to the Comics Code and just print them without the stamp on it?" Turned out they sold just as well, and then eventually it went away. But I mean, at that point, the panic was already over as well. So it's not, if they had like immediately stopped using it, like, or had never started using it, then we're probably gone differently. But so yeah, the self-regulating thing.
Yeah.
Companies love to self-regulate whenever there's a threat of them being regulated from the outside. They're like, oh, actually, we can do this ourselves.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Think about the car industry too, is the diagnostic tools. Like, well, the car industry is so rapidly changing that you have to have companies on top of making diagnostic tools. But that's another way of them almost keeping it in-house. Like, you have to take your car back to a Ford dealership or a Chevrolet dealership or whoever you bought it from, because the repair companies are not up to date. Like the independent mechanics, they're not up to date on the new changing items and the electronics that are being dumped into these cars these days. So therefore, they don't have the diagnostic tools. You have to go back to the company you bought it from. Even though repairing is possible, you're still giving more money to the original company rather than third-party companies.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we had a car before. Like, I don't know if I don't remember if it was like my dad's or my mom's or something, but like some of the family, we had a car and we actually like had like a broken part or something. We replaced it and then we still had to take it. Well, not to a dealership, luckily, but just to a repair shop. But we had to take it to a repair shop just so they could remove the error message, basically. So it wouldn't, like, always show the little light for that it's broken. It's like, it's repaired. Yeah. You don't need to show the light anymore. It's like, oh no, you have to, like, actually, like, remove that in software to get the light to shut up. It's like...
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
It's like...
ensuring that you bring it to them. Yes.
I mean, luckily, me and my dad works with cars, so, like, he knows people in repair shops. So, like, if it's literally just that, it's like, oh yeah, just bring it in and I'll delete the error. It's like, so luckily for us, it's wasn't a hassle, but like for other people, it very well could be. It's like, great, right? Like, you can physically repair your own car, but then it'll keep showing up as like there's a fault unless you actually bring it into a repair shop to like literally just remove the digital notice.
But that's also one of the laws of retail, because you're taking your car to a retail shop to have it repaired, where also they sell other vehicles. They sell newer vehicles than what you might have. And a rule of retail is to get the customer inside the store no matter what. So if they're there, they're getting their car repaired, like, hey, you tired of repairing that car? We got the new model right over here. Runs better. I guarantee you won't even have those problems with this model. And then you get it, and a year later, you're having different problems that you have to bring it back to them for.
Yeah, new cars ain't always better. I mean, as a matter of fact, I'll go so far as to say that old cars are the best. Right? Like, before they had all sorts of electronics in them, because if something broke, you fix it and it's done. Also, there's no electronics that can break.
Yes.
It's like... Yeah, I'll roll up my windows by hand. Like, I'm okay with that, right? At least my car is going to have like 10 million different electrical problems. Like, what the fuck?
Exactly. Yes. I mean, yes, man. I miss cars like that. Yes.
The worst part is, I like the idea of electric cars, right? Like, actually, like electric motors, right? Like, that's a cool technology, but also they have so much unnecessary bullshit. Like, just why can't you make a simple electric car, right? I mean, listen.
Yeah.
I don't have anything against the electric, window thing. Like, electric windows, fine, right? Like, heated rear windows so that you don't have to defrost them. Great stuff, right? I'm not complaining.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what's with like all of the like infotainment systems and whatnot? It's like, just give me a radio. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I have a radio that like you can plug in a thumb drive if you want to listen to your own music, and it's also a radio, and it's like basically compatible with every car, right? At least the older ones, but you have like those radio slots, and like actually mine is basically like a half slot, but some of the oldest cars only have half slot anyways. Like some of the new ones have like a big one, so you can put like a navigational unit with a screen and everything in there. It's like just chuck it in there, connect it to the correct wires, and you're good to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things used to be better.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I miss when I was really young and had like old school cars, and because it was all I could afford. It was so much easier. I could just fix them right there. There's no way you're buying a 2023 or 2024 model and fixing it if it breaks down on the side of the road. No one has the knowledge to do that anymore. Back in those days, like if you had a car from the 80s or 70s, if you're lucky enough, which I actually had one from the 70s too, but you break down on the side of the road, you could walk over to the part store, buy whatever part that is for fairly cheap, and put it in on the side of the road, and you're off. Rather than calling a tow truck, and I guess we're going to have to tow it back to the dealership because they're the only ones that can work on it.
Yeah, I mean,
I really miss those.
It's also like electronics in general. I mean, obviously, again, I said like more electronics in cars usually bad, but also like electronic devices themselves. It's like, is it kind of weird how electronic devices or like their predecessors, sometimes from like the 90s are still very much intact today, but the ones that were sold in the 2010s are all broken now? How come? It's like, you know, how like I've heard this in like fridges, right? You have like fridges from the like 80s or 70s or whatever. It's like they're still running perfectly fine today. Like it's just a compressor with a heat pump. Done. Right? And now they have like all sorts of like sensors and what have you, and like they break after 5 years. It's like,
smart, yeah.
Why does my toaster need an internet connection?
Exactly. Why does your toilet need an internet connection? Why do people have smart toilets? Is there really a need out there?
I mean,
can you think of one?
I honestly not familiar with smart toilets. I mean, I'm barely familiar with smart toasters. I mostly have heard of them. It's one of those things that I think people ridicule more than they actually encounter. But like, still, right? It's like, why do we always overcomplicate devices?
yeah. And the refrigerators, yeah, definitely. I remember my grandma, when I was a little kid, probably had one from the 60s, still running fine. But like you said, if you see anything from like 2000 and beyond, they're all dead now. Like anything from 2000 to 2010, you will not find one of those products in the home. Everything's dead, and they do that. I think that was a problem with American car makers. Is somewhere along in the 80s into the 90s, they decided that if we make cheaper quality cars, they will break at some point, and they'll have to come back and buy new ones. That's when the Japanese car companies started taking over because they made cars that ran forever. The Hondas will run for 40 years, whereas your Fords and Chevrolets are going to break down after 10. You don't find cars on the road very often that are over 10, 15 years. Like everything you see is within the past 5 to 10 years, basically on the road now. There's very few. But those Hondas from 1998 are still running.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is also the simplicity, right, of older cars, where it's like, I mean, again, like the electronic complexities, and then also the other thing, it's not just that they're producing things so that you have to buy them again, but it's also the race to zero, zero, where it's like, when you try to, race to the bottom, I guess, when it comes to prices, right, but it's like, companies have found out that it's easier to sell cheaper things. And if you want to make things cheaper, you reduce production costs as much as possible. And if you reduce production costs, you reduce quality. And conveniently, right? Obviously, your total profit is probably less than if you sold a more prestige thing. But you can A, sell more units right now, and B, sell the same units again in another year or two. And it's like, great.
Yeah. Whereas you could have bought a good car that lasted 50 years, you can buy a cheap one for half the price that's only going to last a quarter of the time, and then they make double the money.
And of course, the worst part is, to bring it back to like the whole class discussion that you had earlier on, right? Rich people can afford to buy things that last. Poor people cannot. You have the thing where like being poor is very expensive. I mean, that's not all that related to like planned obsolescence, but it a little bit is, right? Where if you buy the cheap thing that you have to replace every now and again, but you can't afford the expensive thing that lasts you a while, you're gonna have to buy the cheap thing, and you're just gonna have to buy it again later.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, the prime example.
Shopping at the.
Oh, so sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say you're shopping at the Dollar Tree instead of Publix. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the worst example of that is not about products themselves, but it's usually the health stuff where it's like people feel like they can't afford to go to a doctor, and so they only go once they like have a real issue, and it's like, Well, but if you had gone earlier, this would have been a lot simpler of a treatment and it would have been cheaper. Now, of course, that's a very American problem because obviously, health insurance. But,
yeah, tell me about it.
But, like, what the fuck? Like, it's like, oh, my teeth hurts a little bit, but I don't want to go to the dentist. It's like, oh, now, like, half of your mouth is rotting and, like, there's got to be hell of an expensive thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. That is the dilemma we face for sure. Considering it would be much easier to go, but even your first visit, you're scared of how much it's going to cost. Even if you have insurance, you're still scared of how much it's going to cost, because until you meet a certain deductible, you're still paying a lot of money for that visit.
Yeah,
you might get lucky and get 15% off if you have a health insurance program. You're still paying.
So I was at the doctor's today, actually. Just like a routine checkup thing for my asthma, right? And so the doctor's visit obviously cost me nothing. And also on the way back, we went to the pharmacy and, grabbed some meds for, again, inhaler, right? And so enough dosage of the inhaler to last me, I think it was exactly 300 days. So, because obviously they're always come in hundreds. $6.
Oh my God. Is it albuterol or what were you using?
Well, the actual, oh God, what is the, first of all, I don't know what exactly it is that you're talking about, but it's probably a brand name because most American drugs have brand names. I don't know that for a fact, but
that's the med name, albuterol.
I haven't heard of that one in particular, but what is it called? Nuvulmon? That I think is it's all Latin anyways, right? Like it's but
yeah, of course.
Yeah, but anyways, the point is, right? Like enough asthma inhalers for like almost a year. Because I only take it once a day, but it's like it's like $6, right? I mean, I guess it would have been 8 if I wanted to make sure that I definitely last me the entire year, but
Yeah, that's crazy because my son takes those too, and he's got like the rescue inhalers and the normal steroidal inhalers, like the everyday ones, and then he's got like the super inhalers that are only for when you really get sick or you have a really bad asthma attack, like the instant rescue, and things like that. Dude, those things run anywhere from $90 to $350 per, and they come with 200 pumps, I believe. Per canister.
Mine, I think, are just like for freeing up lungs, I think, or something. I don't recall exactly. I did technically once get an explanation of how it's supposed to work, but also that was like at this point probably almost a decade ago. So I forget things. But yeah, no.
Oh yeah.
It also I don't even think I have an emergency inhaler anymore. I mean, I probably still have it, but it's probably gone bad by now. Because I also, the last time I used it was also probably about a decade ago. So I actually am very lucky in that sense, where it's like, I have this one inhaler that I take once a day and then I'm basically fine.
Okay.
So, it's not that bad, but still, right? It's like, if I see what Americans pay for like doctor's visits and medication, it's wild.
Yeah. It's ridiculous, man.
Also,
it's painful.
I think there was a thing where if you get prescription meds that exceed, what was it, like 5% of your income, then you actually get a waiver. You can like request a waiver and then you don't have to pay anything.
In America?
Oh, no, in Germany.
Oh, okay. I was like,
no.
Like
a reasonable social program in America? Are you kidding me? Like maybe in California if you're lucky.
Yeah, the capitalist heads are exploding when they heard that.
No. Although, to be fair, I think they did manage to finally cap insulin, so there's that.
Yeah.
Initially,
it's still a ridiculous amount, though.
I think initially Biden had insulin cap for Medicaid recipients, and then he pressured the drug companies to just generally cap it, and I think they now have it capped for everyone. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. I don't know what the cap is. I don't know. I've never used it, so I don't know what the normal price would be anyway, but I'm sure it's still a large amount compared to other countries.
I mean, yes, but also you have to consider that previously people, probably still some people, but people were literally dying because they couldn't afford enough insulin, which is wild.
Yeah, if people getting cancer doesn't have like this super fortified insurance program, they just die. They can't afford that med. Like if they don't have insurance, if they're lucky, they can get on government assistance. If they hit it at the right time. And even so, like there's people who apply for disability. Say you got cancer, you can't work anymore, so they apply for disability. From what I hear, everybody gets denied their first time, no matter what your situation is. You get denied the first time. You have to appeal it, and then they'll actually take a look at it and see if they can. And I guess that's a process of weeding out the people who don't seriously need it in a way. Somehow, I don't know how it makes sense to anyone, but
I mean, American Social Security programs are generally, as my understanding goes, very heavily designed to try to make 100% sure that no one that doesn't deserve it gets it. And that usually means that there's so much paperwork that some people just do not have the time and capacity to just actually fill it out, which is also great.
Yeah.
On a note of hospitals, though, it is worth mentioning that I believe most hospitals in the United States are nonprofits. And if you are a nonprofit hospital, you are legally required to have a option for people that can't afford your medical care to, like, A, reduce the bills, or in some cases, forgive them completely, and also payment plans and stuff like that. So, they don't advertise that because they don't want you to take advantage of that, but just, if anyone is in the States and you get, like, a huge medical bill, look into that. Because most hospitals are supposed to have those sort of programs. And, again, they don't advertise it because it's not good for them, but make use of that if you can.
Yeah, there's definitely emergency. Anyone, you can get emergency care without any money at all. That is absolutely, and you can't appeal your bills and all of that. But I have heard about some hospitals actually selling out to private owners because of that, because they're ended up going out of business because of people, what they claim people taking advantage of it. But
I mean,
like we know in other countries, most other first world countries in the entire world, this wouldn't be an issue in the first place.
To be fair, and it's weird to take side of the hospitals, but hospitals are at least not entirely to blame for this, because a lot of, like, medical supplies and, like, drugs and stuff like that are also more expensive in the States than in other countries. So the hospital also does have higher expenses than hospitals in other countries do. And in other countries, it's not that the hospitals are free, it's just that everyone has insurance that covers it. I mean, some countries are free, but it's either, like, paid for by the government or through an insurance. So they're still getting money from somewhere, and they also have fewer expenses. So the situation isn't directly comparable, but also, because that's always the problem, right? It's like, it's the pharmaceutical companies, it's the government, it's insurance companies, it's the hospitals, right? It's like, everyone needs to get their act together to, like, get a system like, I mean, even the one in Germany that I'm not a big fan of, but, I mean, it works for the most part, but, like, other countries, you just go to hospital and you're fine, right? In Germany, you hand them your insurance card, you maybe get a bill that you have to hand into your insurance so that they give you the money back. It's like, it's fine, you still more or less don't pay any money, but it's still a process sometimes. And it's like, I think it's like, I want to say it's Spain maybe, where it's like, oh, your hospitals are just free. Like they don't even, like, it's not like they send you a bill and you get your money back. It's just like, the government takes care of it. It's like, they don't care if you're, like, insured in the country or anything. It's just, you just go in, you get your care, you go out.
I've heard stories of certain countries in South America being like that, where they're on vacation and they just happen to go to the hospital and they take them in, they work on them and send them on their way, and they're like, where's the bill? I mean, like, there's no bill. What are you talking about, bill?
My understanding is that some Americans actually, like, fly to Mexico to get medical treatment, because it's that thing where, like, the flight plus the medical treatment is cheaper than just getting the treatment in the States.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I know we've done a whole podcast on this before, but
people in America, off topic.
People in America love to combat that because that's all they've known. That's the system they've known their whole life. And so, when you tell them, like, how great these other countries have it, they're like, oh, no, you don't understand. Those countries have waiting lists that are miles long, and you'll die before you ever get the treatment you need. And I'm like, I don't know. I've talked to the people from those countries. It doesn't seem to be that way. But that's the rhetoric they're taught, you know. So they believe that this is the best system.
I mean, yeah, waiting lists are only like really for for elective surgeries, and also the length of them is usually very overblown. The other thing is, what was I going to say? Oh, right. The other argument that you sometimes hear is that like America has some of the best doctors in the world. It's like that isn't false. I will give you a lot of the best doctors in the world.
They're making the money.
Are in America. However, those are not the doctors you're going to go to. Those are the doctors that the rich people go to.
Exactly. Because they don't understand that now. But they don't look at it logically.
The actual quality of care and like the outcomes in American hospitals are actually worse than in most, if not all, European countries. Like that's like if you're like an average Joe going into an American hospital, your outcome is probably worse than if you go to a European hospital. Even though the European one is, depending on the country, either free or very cheap, and even if it's cheap, probably still reimbursed by your insurance. So,
well, also in American hospitals, you have to deal with them knowing you came in and you don't have any money. We are not going to give you the best standard of treatment because we know you're not going to pay for this. So if you do have to visit the hospital and you have no money and you're taking advantage of the free system, they're not giving you the best of care. That's for sure. Even so, like, because I went to the hospital and I actually paid the bills out of my pocket, but I got horrible treatment because I didn't have the insurance right up front to give them. If you give them the insurance, they're going to give you a high standard of care. But if you don't, they think you're probably going to default on the payment in the first place. You do not receive the highest level of care. Absolutely not. I saw a nurse for I had a bad kidney stone. I was passing blood, you know, and it was the most painful thing. And I've had 20 of them in my life. This was the most painful thing I'd ever been through in my life. And I went to they pulled me back after 20 minutes in the waiting room. They gave me a shot and gave me a pain med pill, sent me back out to the waiting room, and then sent the release papers back to the waiting room. I never saw a doctor. I never really spent any time being examined because they just brought me back and I talked to a nurse and told her what was going on. And then she gave me a shot and a pain pill, then sent the withdrawal papers out to there. Why? Because I didn't have the insurance. So they're not going to give you that standard of care without them knowing they're making money off of it.
I want to say, and I don't know this for a fact, but I want to say that will probably be legal in Germany because I'm pretty sure they can't prescribe you anything if there's no doctor present. The doctor has to at least have a look at you. I think they can be like, oh yeah, this isn't that, and then the nurse can fix it out. But I'm pretty sure the doctor has to at least have a look at you, you know, say hello.
Has to actually come and talk to you.
Yeah.
They'll just, the nurse will go back and say, hey doc, I've got this patient, they probably need this, and the doctor will sign off on it, and then she comes out and here's your pain med, you know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Here's a script that you can go by.
I'm pretty sure it was actually a problem, a small problem during the COVID pandemic where everyone wanted to get vaccinated, right? Well, except for the couple of crazy people that got the germ or QAnon. But most people wanted to get vaccinated, right? And so the problem was, I'm pretty sure for the longest time, I'm not sure if they ever changed it, but only an actual doctor could give you the shot. Or at the very least had to be present. I don't know if the nurse could literally put the needle in, but they had to have a doctor present for every single person who took the shot. And it's
oh wow.
Yeah, but also not everywhere has that many doctors for that amount of demand that's coming in all at once. That was a bit of a problem.
Yeah, we were going to the pharmacist to get the shots.
I mean, the thing is, right? Nurses are better at it anyways, right? Whenever it comes to syringes, nurses usually have more to do with syringes than doctors anyway. So it's and it's oh yeah, but if you have a reaction and it's a nurse will notice you have a reaction, she can call the doctor if need be, right? It's fuck no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Again, I think they might have loosened that somewhat, but I seem to remember something like that being an issue before at one point or other. But yeah, we're getting pretty off topic. I think maybe we should move on to the next segment.
Definitely. Yeah.
What is your fact of the week?
Let me pull it up here. Fact of the week. Where did I save it at? Oh, it's right here. All right. I'm wondering if you've had this on the show before, but I found it interesting. Did you know Switzerland prohibits the ownership of just one guinea pig.
Oh, that's actually sensible.
Since guinea pigs are such social creatures, one guinea pig would get so lonely, so having just one is considered animal abuse in Switzerland. I've actually heard that before, that guinea pigs are extremely social, and they will actually, if they grow up with a partner, you take that partner away, they will both die from being separated. So Switzerland actually made it illegal.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've heard that before, but definitely it's one of those things where, like, you definitely always hear, like, it's at the very least heavily encouraged to always get two, and it makes sense that it's like, yeah, no, like, this is not a way to hold an animal, right? Like, if you like had a guinea pig and you put it in like a box like this size, that would also be animal abuse, right? It's like, why is keeping it socially isolated not, right? So that makes perfect sense. Like, immediately when you said it, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, yeah, just get two, right? Like, it's not that hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Keeping social animals alone is like a big thing anyways, right? Like, you shouldn't really do. I mean, dogs are like a little bit better because they also like socialize with humans, so like they're fine. But also,
that's their pack.
It's usually still, I think it's still, even they are like somewhat recommended to not have just one dog. But again, right? Dogs are cool with humans, so that usually works out. But yeah, especially if the animals are home alone a lot, you should not have one for a lot of them, right? Like cats also, I think it's like,
oh, absolutely.
If you're like, if you leave them home alone, you shouldn't just have one cat. You should at least have two cats, so they have some socialized with when you're not there.
Yeah, they get social or separation anxiety and things like that. Having them in a pack at the house actually tends to cut down on that somewhat.
Speaking of social animals, and actually also tying a little bit into the whole medical thing, I found an interesting story of a dolphin, actually 2013, okay, so from 2013, where a dolphin actually swam up to a group of divers, and the dolphin had like some fishing line on it, right? I think it actually had a hook in it, and then the fishing line wrapped around one of the fins. And it swam up to the divers, and one of the divers realized what was happening, and like cut the line loose. And so the way it's usually presented is that a dolphin asked for help, and then was provided it. Now, granted, of course, dolphins can't speak. They can't really communicate with humans. But it definitely did, at the very least, willingly get close to humans, which, granted, it was a diving spot, so they're probably somewhat used to them anyways. And the guy was helping it. I saw the video, right? Like, the guy was helping it. And actually, like, the dolphin went up at one point for air and then came back to the diver, like, because he wasn't finished yet. So there was really some understanding that at the very least, because I'm assuming it's still painful, right? Like, because fishing line is pretty, like, sharp. So it's like, so it at the very least understood that what the human was doing wasn't actively harmful against it and was helping. Presumably, it actually, as presented in the story, went out of its way to try to seek help. Although that is a little bit less clear, of course. But I guess the fact of the week is obviously dolphins and generally like dolphins, whales, like very smart animals. And also very social, and also they do socialize with humans, given the chance, to a degree.
Well, give it that it wasn't an accident, and maybe the dolphin didn't just stumble upon it. If it actually sought out a human, that means they are smart enough to know I need to find a creature with an opposable thumb to help me get out of this. And that's
and in this case, a knife as well. Like, because he was trying to unwrap the rope and it didn't work, and then he pulled out his knife and he like cut it off. It presumably maybe understood that the human could help, or at the very least, it was hoping the human could help. But it did seem to at the very least understand that the human was helping. Even if we like say, okay, it happened to be swimming there, and it, like that, like whether it actually sought out the diver or that was just a bit of a coincidence, I was hard to tell. But like the fact that he helped, the dolphin went up for air and then came back to him to like finish a job, very heavily suggested, at the very least, once he started helping, it understood that he was helping.
Yeah, absolutely. I always wonder that too, like how many of these animals, because there's compilations on YouTube of like animals asking for help from humans or whatever, and you watch those and I'm like, how many of these are actually actively seeking out the human, or was it just happenstance? They just stumbled across a human and here the human's going to help.
Yeah, and I mean,
And some of them do look like they know that the human is going to help them, so they participate where rather than just run away.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, a lot of animals, if they have something painful stuck in them or something, and you try to pull it out, they're gonna feel pain and they're gonna react, right? So,
Yeah.
So I had heard of dolphins helping humans, right? Like if you're like, if there's like a human who got like, of course, something like, but that was the first time I'd heard of a human helping a dolphin. Well, a dolphin seeking out help from a human specifically. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's definitely a lot going on there. With animals in general, I mean, not quite a story of an animal seeking help from a human, but I do remember like a funny video of the orangutan who like stole the guy's jacket. Basically, I mean, to be fair, the guy wasn't resisting, but
yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that, but like the orangutan like unzips the guy's jacket and like takes it off of him and then puts it on itself.
Yeah. And he's even kind of looking at himself like, yeah, I like this. The orangutans are really smart. I saw one today where the patron at the zoo had some kind of treat in his hand, and the orangutan is like, hey, throw me that right there. Throw it to me. Like he's actually actively pointing like that. Throw it to me. So he throws him that, and he takes the treat. He's like, yeah, that's awesome. So the patron points to the orangutan and says, give me something back. The orangutan looks around. He's like, this banana? Hey, he picks up the banana and he looks around to see if there's any zoo keepers around. And then he throws the banana at him. And he's like, thank you. That was pretty awesome. So the orangutans are pretty smart.
I mean, yeah, but the thing is, right, we always like, oh yeah, it's like apes, right? They're smart. It's like, well, yeah, they're also like the closest known relative to humans, right? It's not really that surprising that they're smart, and also we kind of expect them to. So it's always the dolphins are like another fairly well known example, but it's one that I think is like a little less discussed. And then obviously corvids, right? Like crows and what are the ones I think of? It doesn't matter. There's no clear distinction was. But yeah, like crows, you can actually like there. I think there's actually a park where they train them to collect trash, right? It's like the crows are collecting trash, and I think they get like food or shiny things or something. I think it's food in that case, in return, right? And there was another case where, although that one I haven't confirmed, it's just like a video I've seen, but like where someone is like, oh yeah, might have actually just put a story, I don't recall, but where a human trained a crow to like bring him like bills that people lost, right? Like money in return for like little shiny knickknacks, because like money, right? And so yeah, and apparently crows can also remember human faces. So like a crow will remember if you treated it well or not. So like, don't fuck with crows.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was crows working at my first job.
I forgot ravens for a second, but crows and ravens, sort of the same thing. There's actually no clear division where like which species belongs to crows and which to ravens. It's like sort of a thing that people just made up. Like scientifically, there's no clear distinction, and also which exact bird falls into which category, like sometimes depends on who you ask. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was working at my first job when I was a teenager. It was a fast food place. And the crows would always come outside because people would drop French fries and things out of the drive-through window. So they would always come and collect. And after a while, we're bored. We're just throwing French fries out there and watching them eat them. So I guess it's almost abusive in a way. But one of the guys had the smart idea. Let's cover it in hot sauce just to see what happens. So he covers this French fry in hot sauce and throws it out there. The crow doesn't take a taste. He doesn't sniff it. He doesn't do anything. He picks up the French fry, goes over to the puddle and washes it off and then eats it. Like he was smart enough to know, like maybe this has happened to him before or whatever. But he saw that there was hot sauce on there, flew right over to the puddle in the ground and washed it off and then ate it. And I was like, that's pretty smart right there.
I mean, okay, there's basically three possibilities, right? Either this has happened before, or he's just like, oh, there's something weird on my fries, let's get it off. Or third of all, he can just smell it and knows that it's not tasty, right? Because smell and taste are obviously very close.
Yeah, maybe it was.
Because obviously, how could he know it's not something that he would want to eat without trying it first? But obviously,
Yeah.
3 options.
I feel like he probably hangs around a lot of drive-throughs, and he's seen that situation before.
I mean, they once tested crows on tool use, right? And so they got him to like use sticks to get food out of like these like puzzle things, and they did actually at one point get him to like stick 2 sticks into one another to use them together. So crows have been proven, or it might be ravens, but like corvids, whatever, they have been proven to use at least 2 combined parts to make a tool, which is already fairly complex, right? Because using a stick to beat something isn't really that smart, right? Like that's, I mean, obviously it was a bit more finesse what they were doing specifically, but like a single part tool is still fairly primitive, right? Like I was gonna say like any ape could throw rocks, right? Like it's not, but like putting things together to like make one tool, like that's already like really smart. So like I think we underestimate the intelligence of animals generally, right? Like it's like they can't talk, so they must be dumb. It's like first of all, dolphins and whales do talk, you just can't understand them. And second of all, okay, so there's actually a theory. The fact of the big segment is also supposed to be some, but there's actually a theory that, based on the observations that have been made about like whale sounds, that they actually are structurally fairly complex and might actually constitute language, like in the human understanding. Because a lot of animals do have like specific sounds that they make, and sometimes even the sounds have like fixed meanings, or sometimes they just try to get someone's attention or something. But like actually like stringing together different sounds in like a meaningful combination is like a much more specialized skill, and it does seem like whales might be able to do it.
Yeah, that's what I've always thought. I've always had that theory. I know like cats and dogs, you know, they wouldn't typically make those sounds if it wasn't for human intervention. Especially cats, you know, they didn't meow to each other in the wild. They did have growls and hisses and whatnot to warn off predators or to prevent a fight, hopefully. But the meow is something they developed for humans to get human attention because they hear vocal language coming from the humans. So they developed their vocalization back and, you know, thinking that is something that gets the humans' attention. But yeah, they don't use it as far as communication with each other. And dogs don't either. They don't bark to let each other know anything. Except for maybe could be like a bark as a warning of an intruder for wolves and things like that, but it's not a specific language. I've always thought that whales probably were using a specific language with their methods of vocalization, the beeps and the whatnot, the clicks.
Yeah, I mean the big difference here really is just that like even when cats and dogs communicate with humans, they just like make a noise, or like even maybe 2 or 3 different noises, but they don't like, it's not like they chain like noise A, noise B, noise A to like try to make like a meaning, like a sentence or a word. But like whales actually do string together like multiple. We don't quite know what they're saying. We still haven't deciphered it, but it does, like, just based on the patterns, it does seem like there's more to it than like even like a bird song or something. Which I mean, bird songs are mostly just birds showing off, right? Like that's there's actually they do chain together sounds, but it's more musical, melodic. It's not. Doesn't carry a specific meaning.
To attract a mate,
Speaking of bird songs, how about we do Hurdle?
Absolutely.
I guess we're going to start in the 50s and keep going from there. How about
it? Yeah, let's do it. I know this. This is the 50s?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm going to need to hear a little more, but that does sound really familiar.
I mean, I was going to say, like, it does certainly sound like it's from the 50s.
Yeah. But there's also, like, a wave in the, I want to say 80s, late 80s into 90s, where they started copying that sound with, like, the Violent Femmes and Flaming Lips and whatnot. But yeah, definitely. I know this song. I need to hear more of it, but I know of this song. Of course, no vocals yet, so.
I also love whenever it's just like the same thing, but again.
Yeah, exactly. I know that. What is it? Oh my! It's not the Beach Boys.
Did they start in the 50s?
Yeah, I believe so.
I don't think they're in here though. I mean, I to be fair, I do mostly associate them with the 60s, but that doesn't necessarily have to mean that they weren't active in the 50s.
What's is Larry Williams in there? Or
No Larry
the
W to be
Teen Top?
found.
Okay, what about Teen Tops? I'm looking at people who have done a certain
What is it?
song
Teen
that I'm
Tops?
thinking of. Yeah, like
Like the teenagers?
TEEN. Yeah. No?
Nope.
Okay, so I'm guessing that's not the song I'm thinking of then. Unless there was a different. Huh. I don't know if that's the original person that did that song. Anyway, can we play a little more?
Yep.
I got You're Gonna Give Your Love to Me. Is it Richie Valens?
Richie Valens, La Bamba, Donna, and Come On, Let's Go. Are the three options from him?
It's not La Bamba, for sure.
Is it that La Bamba? Is the La Bamba I'm thinking of just a cover of this one? Or is that like a completely different song?
La Bamba. La 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 Bamba. It starts off saying La Bamba, so that's not.
No, I'm not saying if it's this song, but if like the La Bamba from Richie Valens from the 50s is like the same song than like the La Bamba that I'm thinking of, which is from later.
Yeah, that's the original. Yeah, he was the original.
La Bamba. La Bamba, por qué seré.
Oh, you know what? It wasn't Buddy Holly. I mean, it wasn't Richie Valens, but he also died on the plane with Richie Valens. It had to be Buddy Holly.
The day, the music that Ray Vaughan, That'll Be the Day, True Love Ways, Peggy Sue, and It Doesn't Matter Anymore are the Buddy Holly songs that we have on this list.
Huh. Okay. Jesus. Maybe it's a different. Because Buddy Holly actually has a song called "I'm Gonna Tell You How It's Gonna Be." I
mean, to be fair, tell you. Nope, no.
Okay, that's not even an option. Okay. Can you play a little more of the song?
Unless it's like tell ya. No. The problem is always like when you get into like lyrics because it's started with like I'm like I'm not even gonna attempt to spell it right because is it I'm is it I'm is it is it I'm dash.
Oh, you know what? Try this. Try Rolling Stones.
Well, no.
I know they probably got a million Rolling Stones songs.
None of the 50s.
Are you serious? So maybe they covered it then.
I was gonna say like again Stones. In my mind the Stones come shortly after the Beatles, and the Beatles are more of a 60s band. But
yeah, that's true. Yeah, the British Invasion. But I swear they did that song also. It's a Buddy Holly song. I'm gonna tell you how it's gonna be. Bop, 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 bop. You're gonna give your love to me. Can you play the next part and make sure that that's what he says next?
One second. Gonna give no. I was just gonna see if that lyrics. So you wanna listen to the whole thing?
Yeah.
Is it possible that you just don't know the exact title?
Maybe not. What about not fade away? Try that.
What? Not fade?
Yeah, try that.
Not fade away. The Crickets.
Oh, the Crickets. How many people did this song?
But yeah, this was the Crickets with Not Fade Away. I mean, to be fair, we got there in the end.
Yeah.
I mean, you got there in the end. I was no help at all. But
a lot of those songs were like that, though, back in those days. That you would have a hit song, and there's like 10 different artists.
Okay, first of all, the cover says "Buddy Holly Lives."
Okay, see,
and that just makes me have more questions. Okay, 60s. Now this
was Buddy Holly in the Crickets? Is the question.
That's what the other thing I was thinking. But if it's called Buddy Holly Lives, I'm thinking it might have been more of a tribute to him. Like, when was the plane crash, actually? Because that was later. That was later.
62?
Yeah, because then they couldn't have covered it in the 50s in tribute to his death, certainly. Because
exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, 60s, this should be when my knowledge starts coming in, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee it.
Oh. That does sound familiar also. That sounds like one of those early 60s, like the girl doo-wop bands. I need to hear more of it.
Exactly my strong suit. It's basically more insane.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I guess we're going to skip one more time and see if there's anything more interesting coming up.
Yeah. Huh. Sounds a little bigger than the doo-wop era. But I don't know. I don't have a clue yet. Till we get more into the lyrics, I suppose.
Nothing.
When your lips a river start to play.
That was just an intro. It's a guy.
Yeah.
It's a boy.
He sounded like a Sinatra or something. One of those, the Sinatra, Dean Martin types. Don't know that that's who it is.
It's not something stupid. It's not my way. It's not something stupid again. Oh, it's something stupid. Frank Sinatra and Nancy Sinatra, and something stupid.
Yeah.
Nancy Sinatra and Frank Sinatra, because that's different.
It was on each of their albums.
I mean, also the first one is something stupid, and the other one is something stupid. Anyways, the options that I'm unfamiliar with are Nice and Easy and Strangers in the Night, which I probably should know, but I don't.
Yeah.
So,
I know Strangers in the Night, and that's not it.
Is it Nice and Easy?
I don't know that I know that song.
Okay, the other option, what do you say, Dean Martin?
Yeah.
Everybody Loves Somebody is the only song of his that they have.
Okay, that's definitely not it.
Oh no, that's Everybody Needs Somebody.
Somebody's.
Yeah. So let's then just Sinatra. Let's just go for. Oh, there was more Nancy Sinatra. I was like, what? Let's just go for this one and see if it is it, and otherwise we'll just have more songs, more music to listen to. Submit. That was obviously not it.
All right.
When your lips a river start to play, dance with me, make me sway.
To be fair, I do think his voice is also a little soft to be Sinatra, but...
Yeah, maybe so.
I think he has a little bit more of an edge to him. Not, like, a lot, but...
I know this song. When the stars to play, dance with me. And it's not Dean Martin?
They have Everybody Loves Somebody by Dean Martin. You said that wasn't it, I think.
Okay, maybe Dean Martin just covered the song.
Or it wasn't it. Sorry, just... I mean, we could try some of the lyrics you said. Like last time, you know?
See if is there... try typing in Sway.
Sway by Bobby Rydell.
Okay. This may be another thing like the Crickets. That's it.
That's the one.
How many people covered these songs back then, man?
Hey, man, if you have an idea what the title is, we don't need the artist. I mean, okay,
Yeah,
we need
true.
either the title or the artist, and then we could probably figure it out from there. But
Yeah.
let's go 70s. Let's listen to some disco. That is if the player is ever loading. Let's try 80s. 80s worse. They just don't like... I know there's sometimes a thing where like certain places can't get certain songs, but usually it's supposed to show an error message where it's like, oh yeah, this song is available in your country.
Oh, yeah, true.
The Midas touch.
The Midas touch.
Well, I was gonna say, they were saying something about the Midas touch. Wait, Midas spelled the...
Yeah.
Is it... It's Midas with an E, right?
It's not M-I-D-A-S? M-I-M-E-I-D-I-S, right?
M-I-D-A-S. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm just an idiot. Midas Touch by Midnight Star. How about it?
Midas touch.
Like, I didn't know the song, but you
Me
gave me
either.
enough in, like, the first two words.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take it.
Definitely didn't know that one.
Oh god, it's the 90s. The problem is, right, I was supposed to peak in the 80s. That was, like... I mean, I guess I did, but, like, not because of knowledge.
Yeah, but you get no 70s. Bum, bum, bum.
The worst part is, like, the first
around.
second is just entirely silence.
Yeah.
Wait, so do you know what this is?
It
It sounded
Yeah,
like
well,
you...
absolutely. This is a House of Pain.
Jump around the House of Pain?
Yeah.
I mean, I reckon I've heard this before,
Let me
but
begin.
yeah, but I do very well understand why this wasn't exactly on my radar.
You don't like rap.
I do not. 2000s.
That does not sound familiar.
Also,
right
it sounds a little
offhand.
bit like the 80s, not gonna lie.
Yeah, it does.
Well, I guess let's +1 and go again. It does sound vaguely familiar.
Vaguely. Very vaguely, no.
This might be Eurodance. Like, I mean, like, as a genre, right? Like, that's not like a specific thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In which case, it should be more in my purview than yours. Because I'm actually
Yeah,
European,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
The thing with Eurodance songs is that, like, a lot of them were, like, very big all across Europe, right? So, like, if it was big one place in Europe, it probably was big everywhere. So, like, that's the one advantage we might have here.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna need a bit more, I think. Wait, what you say? But I know the song.
Okay.
What is that? What is that they sing? What you say?
Everything you said, running through my head.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's the one.
Okay.
What is it?
All the things you said,
Yeah.
running through my head.
But what is that? The title? All the things.
All the
she said by Tattoo. That sounds about right.
Is that it? Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that started at about 13 seconds in. I think the clips are usually 15. So we might have gotten it at the end there anyways, but, like,
Yeah.
the thing is, I probably could have gotten it with like the first plus 1 seconds if I had listened to it a couple times, because it's not like they had anything really new. It just got a little bit louder. So listening to it a couple more. So I'm gonna say this counts as Eurodance, but also they were Russian, I'm pretty sure. So like that's borderline. 2010s we still have, and then the other ones are just the genre ones. We might be able to do the rock one if we so feel, but let's do 2010s first.
Oh, I know this, but I can't place the words. My first thought was Red Hot Chili Peppers, but I don't think it is.
Let's listen to it again without an extra.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
It's gonna repeat that again because I know.
Dark Necessities by Red Hot Chili Peppers. I don't think so.
That's not because that. Wait, that was in the 2010s, right? Or was that 2020? I mean, that was in the 2010s.
If it comes up as an option, then it's definitely an option, right? So it only shows the ones that are relevant for the decade. Also, I believe this may or may not be based on when it charted, not when it was released, which only really matters most of the time if it was released like 2009, it might still be in here. But like if it's fall or winter 2009, it might still be in here. I mean, there might be like, if it is based on charts, which I know some of these are, I'm not sure if the like just the pure decades ones are, then there might also be like the occasional old song in there, right? Like from whenever like the cover of Zombie came out and the original was charting again, or when the Queen movie came out, whose title I forget for some reason. It's a song. Come on, Galileo. It doesn't matter. The point is,
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Bohemian Rhapsody. Yeah, but like I think that also hit the charts. So like there might be some of those in there, but I think for the most part it should be songs that came out in the decade. Which doesn't help with this.
Yeah, it doesn't. Can we play a little more? I know it because it's going to repeat that. I'm not sure exactly at what point the intro stops and the verse kicks in, or the hook, depending on what comes first. Either way, it is familiar.
This is familiar to me as well, but I don't think it's like a song that I've listened to anytime recently. So it's probably like the last time I listened to it was probably like within a year of it coming out the first time, right? Like
exactly, yeah.
But yeah, I guess we'll just listen to more of it.
Yeah, it's gonna keep doing that. Yeah, no clue. That's not enough for me to really remember what it is right offhand. Oh, now it was about to start. I feel like a tambourine was gonna hit, and then the song starts.
I might be entirely off base here, but is it Kryptonite by 3 Doors Down?
No, that would have been 90s.
It sounds like they would have. I mean, it's not that old. It's probably. I mean, I was thinking it might be 2000s, but
maybe early 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think that's it though.
It felt weird because the thing is, it was in my mind for some reason, and I was like, it sounded wrong, but I would have felt stupid if I hadn't said it, and then it ended up being right, right? So I feel like I just need to get that out.
Yeah, definitely.
Doesn't help me. That was the actual thing though, because it wasn't.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just listen to more.
Yeah. Oh, it's not helping. It's definitely not Chili Peppers, I'll tell you that. I really can't think of. I feel like that humming part is just going to go on to the end of this clip.
And yet I don't know what else to do but to listen to the entire thing.
Hey, yeah, exactly. You gotta type in, am I wrong?
I mean, it's worth a shot.
Yeah, that might be it.
Yeah,
That's it.
it's Am I Wrong by Nico and Vince, whom I'm not that familiar with.
Yeah, like I said, I know the song, and it's been a while since I've heard it also, but
I've heard it before.
Gotten...
I never knew the title of the artist, right? Like, that's the thing.
Exactly.
That was worth a shot. 70 still not loading. Let's do Hurdle Rock and then call it a day for the topic, not for the podcast. We still have more.
All right.
Is it Code of the County?
Yeah. No, this is Take a Walk on the Wild Side, isn't it? Hey, man, take a walk on the wild side.
Take a walk. Is it?
Who is that, Jim Croce?
Don't know. Walk on the Wild Side.
Lou Reed. Lou Reed.
Yeah, that was it. Damn! I mean, yeah, like the swingings on the background is like the woo, like that's definitely not. Yeah. But like the guitar is a little similar, I would argue. But yeah.
I see where you get Coward of the County from that. Absolutely.
Lou Reed. I mean, the thing is, whenever someone says Lou Reed, my first thought is Perfect Day. Like Walk on the Wild Side, I would not have even associated with Lou Reed. Weirdly enough, it's like I knew the song, but I wouldn't have been like, oh, that's Lou Reed. It's like didn't necessarily connect for me. But yeah, no, that's fair enough.
Yeah, I was the same way, but we covered that probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago on the channel.
Oh right, I forgot. You regularly do stuff with music.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which that round was much easier than ones in the past.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely still had a lot of misses. I think, was it 2 or 3 times where we just put in the words that they were saying?
True. At least with the 2010s. 2010s and...
I mean, I think there was one that you knew, but we still typed in line for lyrics or something. But yeah, no, that.
Well, except for the one you got. What did you get? The 80s? The one that you got, I think it was. Like, I knew everything other than that. But yeah, it's just a matter of knowing who the artist was.
You mean the one I got by typing in the lyrics, I guess, because I don't think I actually recognized any of them, did I?
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I'll do better next time.
Hey, at least we got them.
Let's do Would You Rather questions.
All right.
Oh yeah, I think if we... Well, it's not going to be any better. I think the presenters are going to be a little cut off, and they don't show up for long, but on this version, but that's fine. Would you rather only eat fruit or only eat meat?
Well, that's tough, because you don't want to get scurvy.
Hey, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure if you only eat meat, you're going to die.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose you can get
like, is soya fruit?
From fruit.
Right, like...
I don't think so. It's a bean.
Yeah, it's probably more of a vegetable then.
Look on.
Because obviously my first thought, I mean, obviously protein is like one of the first things that I'm thinking of as well, right? Like the thing, if you lose meat, I mean, it's not right. Like fruit, you're probably going to get carbs from fruit. That's not a problem, right?
Yeah, you get energy for sure.
Fat, you don't really even absolutely need. I think your body can make fat out of carbs if it really needs to.
Well, and avocado has a lot of fat.
I mean that's all.
Fruit. Yeah.
So I mean proteins. The problem is whenever I think of like plant proteins, it's like it's obviously soy is like the stereotypical one, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And then like what nuts? It's like those are also not fruit.
I mean, you may lose a little muscle, but it's probably much safer to go with fruit. Although there are people who claim to only live off of meat and nothing else. And I just wonder how do you not get scurvy?
I have heard of people saying they only eat meat and take supplements. I don't think I've ever heard someone say they only eat meat.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if you like take vitamin supplements, which again, right, I was going to ask this question when I first saw this pop up because obviously I could see the first question before I went open the tab. What do you mean by only and what do you mean by eat? Right? Because okay, only is fairly straightforward, but like only eat, right? Like because can I still drink things? Because that's the other thing where it's like it's like do I just only eat fruit or only eat meat and just blend the rest of my diet? It's like
everything else.
Like
in that case, I'll take the meat and all my fruit will be in smoothie form. I'll just drink the fruit.
Fruit is probably nicer to blend than meat.
Yeah.
Like those are the questions, right? Like, can you still take supplements, right? Like, can you drink things that have nutritional value, right? I mean, obviously you have to drink water, otherwise you're gonna die. Well, actually, watermelons. You can live off of just fruit without drinking if you like if you just eat like cucumbers. Well, it doesn't fruit maybe, but like tomatoes, I guess. But like like
tomatoes, watermelons, cantaloupes, any of the melons, really.
59% chose meat. Would you rather have a great memory or a great sense of humor?
Oh man. Do you want people to like you, or do you want to know everything, basically?
I know what I'm picking.
I mean, dang, that's a tough one because you want to say memory, because you'll be smarter if you have a great memory. But a great sense of humor, like if you're just dry and bland, you're not going to have any friends. I'll take the memory, though. I'll figure out how to make friends.
53% took memory. Okay, so to be fair, I don't think you absolutely need to have a great sense of humor to make friends, right? Like, there are other ways.
True.
And B, like, you can just remember, like, all the things that they tell you. Well, like you're never going to forget their birthday. You're not going to forget their name when you first meet them. But like, those things are also very useful. So,
I guess also if you have a great memory, you can remember what jokes people thought were funny, and you can retell them, even though you don't realize they are funny.
You can steal someone else's sense of humor.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a win-win situation there.
Also, I mean, it didn't say that it ruins your sense of humor or your memory, right? It's just like you gain something on top of what you currently have. And my sense of humor is probably not excellent, but like my memory definitely is shit. So
Mine is too. Yeah.
It's actually a little bit complicated because sometimes people tend to point out that I do actually remember a lot of like weird facts and stuff. But I feel like whenever something is either important or like a lot of the procedural stuff, I don't remember that well. So it's mostly just like disjointed facts.
Yeah, that's me too. Whatever I think is interesting enough, I'll remember. But I forget a lot of stuff. I can't remember birthdays or anything like that.
Yeah, me neither. I always say I'm happy that I remember my own birthday,
Yeah, me too. I think I have forgotten it before, though. I never remember my parents' birthdays or anything like that. And they always have to call like, hey, it's my birthday. I'm like, oh, happy birthday.
I think I finally remember the dates. I definitely remember my dad's birthday, and I'm pretty sure I remember my mom's, but I definitely like have it in the ballpark. But but like that's definitely a thing.
Yeah. And
then, like, even though I remember the dates, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'll remember when it actually comes about. It's like, oh shit, that is today.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Every time.
Would you rather have a home pool or a home hot tub?
That depends on if you have kids or not, or if you're just an active swimmer. Oh yeah, because if you have a hot tub, you don't particularly need the kids playing in the hot tub, but they want a pool to play in. If you're a swimmer, like you're an Olympic swimmer, you're definitely gonna go with pool, right? But if you're just two, like you and you're a couple, you're grown adults, wouldn't you rather have a hot tub?
Okay, so first of all, I mean, I guess that's one consideration to make. Like, do we consider this as like a physical expansion on like the property, or is it like a thing that actually takes up space because hot tub obviously take up less space?
Oh yeah, then you want the hot tub smaller.
But if we assume that like the space is not a concern, then I would definitely pick the pool. Now the other question is, right? Like, how fancy is the pool? Because like if you really want a hot tub, just
some of
like,
them have hot tubs.
Like heatable pools are a thing, right? Like just heat up the water and like get something to sit if you need, right? Like it's just Like,
True. Yeah, if you got a really nice one like that can turn into a hot tub, then you might as well get the pool.
yeah, because I was gonna tell you, right, you can use a pool as a hot tub. You can't use a hot tub as a pool.
True. Yeah.
That's
Go with pool.
also. I don't think I've ever been in a hot tub, to be fair.
Oh yeah.
But I did enjoy swimming in the past. 64% choose pool.
Mm-hmm.
Only eat candy or only eat cake. Okay.
Wow, that sounds like you're gonna die either way.
I was gonna say, let's take this as, like, only between those two, rather than your entire diet.
Okay.
Although I would make the argument that, like, you know, between, like, various fruity cakes and, like, meat cakes, if you want to really stretch it, you could probably live off of cake.
Yeah.
I mean, candy, right? Like protein bars, I guess. Right? You probably live off of protein bars.
Yeah, true.
So you could probably live off of either one if you really wanted to, especially if you are willing to stretch the definitions a little bit. But
I think, man, I mean, cakes are good sometimes. Like, so there's some wonderful cakes, depending on who's making them. But candy has a much bigger variety.
I mean, do we count cookies as candy?
Or is it a cake? Is cookies a candy or a cake? That's a good question. We need that solved before we can answer this.
I said protein bar, right? Because you say candy bar when you have like a Mars bar or something, right? But first off, when I hear candy, is more like a like a gumdrop, something like something like that, where it's like a very like sugary sweet thing, not like a chocolatey
lollipops,
or like a. So there's that.
Not bread.
But I guess cookies would broadly maybe fall under candy, which at that point I'm maybe leaning candy as well. But
yeah.
If you're talking like actual like more strictly defined candy, I don't even eat that much candy, right? Like I eat cookies,
me either.
And like that's about it in the like the sort of candy realm, and then cake, yes, like let me eat cake.
Yeah, Marie Antoinette. I think I'll take the candy.
If it includes cookies, I'll definitely do as well. 40% took candy, 6% took cake.
Wow.
Huh?
Oh, that's a good one.
Would you rather read people's thoughts or memories?
Now, what's the difference? Like, if you could see their thoughts, couldn't you see their memories? What if they're thinking of something they've done before?
I'm assuming it's whatever they're thinking of right now, if it's thoughts, and memories is like basically anything in the past that they remember. So you don't know what they're thinking in this moment, but like things that have done in the past. If they're thinking back on a memory, I guess you would be able to read it in both cases, but that makes the memory reading much more limited for thoughts because you have to read it while they're thinking of it.
I'm going with thoughts. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It really is tough. If you could read people's memories, you may become like one of the smartest people ever.
It's also, I'm thinking, thoughts is always a thing where it's like, do you really want to know what people are thinking right now? It's always a thing where it's like, oh yeah, some things are better left unsaid. And the thought reading is always a bit of a slippery slope kind of thing. And the memory reading seems more broadly useful and less immediately. I mean, obviously, you can still find out where they fondly remember talking shit about you, but
exactly. That's what I was thinking.
But I feel like it would be less immediately tempting. It would probably, you wouldn't have like those like when someone has like an off the cuff reaction to something you're saying and like they're just thinking like, oh my god, is he really saying that right now? But like it's like you don't really remember that, right? Like those are like the things you kind of just say to yourself. So I do think the memory is maybe more interesting to me personally.
Yeah, until you find out that your best friend was the one that stole your wallet.
I'm pretty sure I know who stole my wallet, but okay, no, I don't think I've ever had a wallet stolen, but I did once have an envelope with $50 in it stolen, which was still unfortunate.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. You read those memories, you're gonna find out who did it. I'm
fairly certain who did it. Well, it was in a school locker, right? So I just still don't know how he got into a locker, but I think he knew where my keys were. So and if he actually pulled it off the way I think he did, then that's actually still pretty impressive because he must have stolen my locker room keys from my bag, opened the locker, took the envelope, locked the locker again, obviously, and then put the keys back. So yeah, we had keys for our lockers, not combination locks like they always have in like American movies.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, we always had. Even when we had to bring our own locks, they had to be combination locks.
Yeah, our lockers had... Well, they also didn't have the thing like the American lockers usually you see where you have like a hinge and you can like hang like a padlock in there, but rather they just had like a fixed built-in lock, so you like insert the key and turn it and then like open it up there. Kind of like a strong box, right? Like a lock box.
Yeah.
But a little bit bigger and obviously turned sideways.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, going with memories.
Yeah, I'm going memories.
All right.
26% memories, 74% thoughts. So that's a 3-1 split in favor of thoughts.
Yeah.
Have no internet or no personal vehicle.
Ooh. Well, for some people that don't drive, that's not going to matter.
I mean, okay, what does it mean to have no internet? I do have some questions.
Yeah. Like home internet?
Can I not use
it on your phone?
Can I not use internet or can I just not purchase it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'll steal the neighbor's Wi-Fi, right? Like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that might be the best of both worlds if you only have no internet at your home. And you can get the neighbor's Wi-Fi, you can go out, you can use your mobile data on your phone.
Okay, I mean, the mobile data on the phone is definitely like your internet unless someone else is paying for it, but
yeah. Technically, yeah. It may be a company phone or something. Okay, but if you're not allowed to access the internet at all.
Let's say you cannot actively access the internet, right? I mean, obviously there's some passive things like internet connected displays that might be like just around in the world. Like I think most like ad displays, for example, are internet connected. Obviously, those don't disappear.
Yeah.
Also, you can ask someone to Google something for you, but you can't do it yourself. You know, like you just can't actively use the internet. Let's go with that.
So you become a not even a boomer. That's more of silent generation who refuse to use the internet. Whatever's left of them.
Oh, by the way, just in case you weren't already aware, you know who's a member of the silent generation?
Who?
Joseph Robinette Biden Jr.
Oh, yeah, that's
true. You know, the 46th and current president of the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's showing it. Because we have to get out of the geriatric president's era. I mean, like Obama was fine; he was young and fit. Even Clinton was young and fit, but we have a tendency to go for extremely old guys.
I mean, the current most likely matchup for the 2024 election is going to be Trump versus Biden again, and Trump is like 4 years younger than Biden or 6 or something. It's not much.
Exactly.
And also, he's like a terrible human being. And also was a terrible president, a pretty bad president at least. Well, no, he was a terrible president. I think I can say that.
There you have it. And social upheaval coming back.
Actually, the thing is, Biden
really left.
Biden isn't even a bad president, right? It's just like
he doesn't have all his faculties.
I mean, he stumbles over his words sometimes, but I think that's just like a normal person thing. He's just not a very good speaker. It does seem like he's still fairly acute for the most part.
Yeah, that's what people always said about Bush, because he was a horrible public speaker, but a lot of people attested that he was really smart. The public didn't know that because he flubbed everything he said. But
the unjustified war, the unjustified invasion of Ukraine.
Exactly. He was hilarious, man. Especially if he ever tried to make a joke that he couldn't remember the punchline to.
Oh yeah,
he was a big pothead.
I think
he was a big pothead. So.
Yeah, no, but Biden is actually he's like a real politician. Which I mean, I know people aren't exactly that fond of politicians, but I'm still kind of impressed, like, when it comes to, like, the negotiating stuff, whereas, like, the debt ceiling stuff, for example, where, like, everyone's like, why is Biden not even like talking to the public about the debt ceiling negotiation? And then like all of a sudden he comes out and is like, oh yeah, we got a deal, and the Republicans basically got nothing. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like he made some concessions technically, but like it was actually way better than anyone expected him to get. It's like, whoa. And all he had to do was just shut up and do his job. It's like, okay.
I'm sure he had some help also.
And I mean, yeah, but also I think some of it is definitely the fact that, he's been in Washington like basically his entire life. Like,
yeah,
that helps.
True. Yeah, absolutely.
So no internet and no personal vehicle.
No personal vehicle.
I agree. I mean, okay, my bus connections where I live right now are kind of terrible, but I could just move to the city, right? Like that's...
Yeah, absolutely. You could always call an Uber or something.
82% no personal vehicle. 18
Makes
no internet.
sense.
I mean, also, to be fair, oh yeah, right, I mean, that gets expensive though, I think, the Ubering thing, but the other thing I was gonna say is also European, right? Like, we actually have decent public infrastructure, including like buses.
Oh yeah.
And
you
trains.
guys don't get shot on. You don't get shot on your public transportation.
I mean, for the most part, we don't get shot. Full stop. Dude, like, we recently had national news because a guy got stabbed. Like, that was in the news for like a week. There was a stabbing, and I think there was a stabbing, and one person was injured and one was killed. It's like one person died.
Oh wow!
Like national news for like a week.
Wow, a week! Wow, that doesn't even make local news for 5 seconds. They don't even like. Oh, and by the way, someone was stabbed on 24th Street. Okay, how's the weather, Johnny? They don't even take the time for that. No, you have to get shot bullets. To make the news. It is. Someone's in the tower. Oh Lord, it's so dangerous here. Why do we live here? It doesn't make sense. Anyway, never lose anything or never break anything.
Am I going to be the asshole again and going to ask, how do you define break?
I assume shattering. Like,
No, because I'm thinking, right, like, I do have a problem where some of my clothes are starting to like get holes everywhere. Like, I feel like half my clothing at this point has holes. And it's like,
yeah.
Part of it is just because I don't replace it as heavily as some other people do, right? But like my pants right now have a very unfortunate hole. I tried to sew it back together, but it's opening up again because the seam didn't quite hold. But right, it's like it would be very convenient if my clothes just lasted forever. For example, I mean, right?
Yeah.
My electronics would be huge, right? Because if it's just like, oh, you like drop something or you accidentally hit something with a hammer, like how often does that happen, right? It's like just actively physically breaking something isn't very useful. I think that doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
But like, if you also don't have any wear and tear and no degradation on your stuff, like that's huge.
Yeah, because if your car dies, you consider that breaking, right?
Yeah, it's like your car never breaks. Like that's your car never breaks.
Yeah,
your car never breaks. It's like that's great. I can't stop.
Yeah, definitely not hitting those stop signs for sure.
Nope.
I'm gonna go with never lose anything.
I think I'm gonna go there too, just because break is so nebulous. But if we go with like the broader definition of break that we had, then definitely break. Because I think I break things more. I think breaks. I didn't see the numbers. I don't think there were numbers. I don't think they showed numbers.
Yeah.
Would you rather live underwater or in space?
Wow, that's at first I thought, oh, definitely space, but then again, the danger is fairly equivalent. Any damage to your domicile is basically going to be equivalent.
Well, it depends how deep.
What? Oh yeah, true. Yeah, if you're like 3 feet, you're fine. But
Yeah, because I was just thinking, like, in theory, if you say like you live in a dome, right, like the stereotypical thing where it's like on another planet or underwater, it's like if an underwater dome breaks, you just swim to the surface, and you're fine. And then I was like, well, if you're like actually very deep down, first of all, it's going to take a while to get to the top, and second of all, something about oxygen, right? Like there's the whole thing where like if you rise too quickly from like very deep down, like you get like oxygen poisoning or some shit like that. It's like
nitrogen, yeah.
Nitrogen, yeah, that's what it was. It's like
Yeah.
So that depends, right? But I do still think underwater is better because you have gravity. I mean, I guess it depends on how you mean space, right? If you mean like Mars, then it might be fine. But like a space station, like your bones are gonna shatter eventually.
Eventually, yeah.
Like bone density loss in astronauts is crazy.
Or, I mean, if you have some sort of workout, like a gymnasium that you can strap yourself down and actually use resistance daily to keep yourself in proper strength.
I mean, first of all, that's a lot of work, and second of all astronauts do that, and I think they still, with like a couple of months on the ISS, like have as much bone density loss as other people have in like 20 years or something. It's wild.
True. Yeah. You don't use it, you lose it. Man, I guess underwater.
And also, like, you're not gonna have your underwater supply line cut up. It just jumped again. I think maybe they don't. I don't know if the site is like a little bit broken or if it just doesn't have enough answers yet to calculate a percentage.
Yeah.
Because I think the site is fairly new because the other one I used to be using doesn't exist anymore, evidently. And
oh.
Well, I mean,
do it.
That's a weird question. Lose your spouse or lose your parents?
Oh,
I ain't married.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not married, then that's an easy answer. But let's say you are. Let's say you're 50 years old and married. You're definitely picking your parents, right? Because they're
gonna die soon anyways, right? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
they're probably part of that silent gen.
I mean, to be fair, if I'm 50, my parents are in their early 80s, right? Like, so we actually have fairly large age gaps in my family. So that is like, yeah, my mother would have been like 32 when she gave birth to me. Like, yeah, that is a 32-year age gap. So that my dad's like like 2 months older than her or whatever. So yeah, well,
about the same with my parents. I believe my
3
dad
months
was like
older than her, but yeah,
I was born.
So yeah, it's like they'd be in their early 80s. Like they like if you say I'm 50 in this scenario, then like yeah, easily the parents.
Yeah.
I mean, my grandma made it to 92, but even that would from 82 only be 10 more years, right? So that
yeah,
that's easy. But I mean, the question is, well, like, I could get married tomorrow, right? And then it's like, I mean, obviously, if I got married tomorrow, I would not know the person I'm marrying, so like that's a whole other thing. But you know, like, it's a thing where it's like, oh yeah, if you've been married for like a short amount of time, and also your parents your parents are like not even 60. Well, your parents aren't like just about 60 maybe, and it's like that's maybe a little bit of a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still probably rough to be like, oh yeah, the spouse, but like it's also very hard for me to value this like hypothetical spouse, right? It's like,
yeah. Well, also, if it's only been a week since you got married, then that oxytocin is going to make you pick the spouse easily. But if you've been married for a decade and you're like, Jesus, I am sick of this woman.
I mean,
you may be like,
optimally, you marry someone where they don't get sick of, but obviously it's not always
optimally. Yeah, but in America, over 50% of marriages end in divorce. So
yes, that's true.
Happens way too often.
I mean, dude, imagine like it's like, oh yeah, your spouse, by which I mean your estranged wife. It's like, okay, like that's an easy pick.
Yeah, I haven't even seen her in 3 years. Of course.
Like, oh right, I'm married. Click spouse.
Yeah.
Right, like,
I'm not gonna miss her.
As a hypothetical, this is too open for me because I don't know anything about this hypothetical spouse. But
yeah,
in the scenario that you described, I guess parents, right? But it's like, oh yeah, they're
yeah, exactly.
74% spouse, 26 parents.
That's how many people hate their wives.
To be fair, I will say, I'm almost certain half the people that clicked on this were like, oh, I don't have a spouse, I'm going to click spouse because nothing happens.
True, yeah.
Because people...
True.
That's always the problem with the ones that have a lot of room for interpretation. It's like, oh yeah, we have the percentages, but they weren't necessarily for our interpretation of the question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's do this one and then like one more and then move on to the songs.
Alright.
Would you rather be stuck on the streets for the rest of your life or be stuck in your home for the rest of your life?
Oh. Man, I'm having like the fears of being like on my 600-pound life or something. Or those people from
then you sure would be stuck in your home, huh?
Yeah.
Like you don't fit through the door frame no more?
Like you'll see on Reddit or something where a guy gets fused to the couch because he sat there for 8 years straight or something, and then the ambulance comes to peel him off and he dies from wounds. I don't know that would be fun. Like, would you rather be homeless or just never go outside again?
I mean, you don't have to
situation.
Be entirely sedentary, right? Like you can get a home gym, you can deck out your home. The problem is, right? You have
if I had a giant mansion, that would be fine.
The trick is, right? If you can, you can set up your home however you like, if you can afford it, and you also have to figure out a way to make money from home. Now,
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, how do we define stuck on the streets? Okay, I know I'm doing the definition thing again, but van life. Like, it's very popular right now. But
yeah, absolutely, especially in San Francisco.
Like in a camping van or something. Like sure, right? Like because that's
take it. I will take it.
That's almost a home, right? Like that's the
true. Oh, but if you're stuck inside for the rest of your life and it's a van, just shoot me now.
Yeah. No, but that's where I'm like, how how homeless do you have to be to count as being on the streets, right?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Because even if we don't go with the fancy camping, right? Like even if I have a car to sleep in, that's still significantly better than actually sleeping on the street.
Yeah, absolutely. Even take some of those little repurposed refugee towns that they've been turning into homeless camps lately. I don't know, man. Maybe.
I mean, it would probably still have to be streets, but it's rough.
Yeah. Sucks because you see what homeless people go through, especially here in America. I mean, the life expectancy goes down by 90% when you're homeless.
Well, yes, but also I feel like
addiction plays part. Yeah.
As someone personally who, well, I was gonna say has no addictions, I'm definitely addicted to caffeine, but who has no serious addictions, right? And who's in fairly good physical, well, I'm not in great physical shape, but I'm fairly healthy, right? And so it's I could probably still get a job, right? I could still find it. I mean, the question is can you actually go inside buildings at all? But I'm assuming they're not that strict. It's sleeping on the streets, not great, but if you can manage to hold down a job and still go to the doctor and buy new clothes. I mean, maybe not too fancy because obviously homeless people, but
this is stolen.
But no, it's I think if you can actually manage to basically have your normal life, except that you don't have a home, a physical place, that's
I'll take that.
Maybe more manageable than because most homeless people are already dead broke to begin with, and probably mentally ill or drug addicted, or well, I mean that's kind of the same thing. And so it's I guess street, but okay, most people picked home. 2/3 picked home.
Mm-hmm. A lot of introverts.
Would you rather have to kill 5 people you know or 1 stranger?
Oh, that's wow.
Should it be the other way around?
Yeah, you would think.
I'm assuming whoever wrote this question just has a lot of people they really don't like. It's like, I said no, not be friends with.
I don't think there's any question here. Like, or unless this like 5 people you know that are your enemies.
Right, like, that's what I was saying, right? Like someone
Yeah.
has to have some serious grudges to write the question this way around.
Yeah.
Okay, 86% picked stranger. Let's do one more because this one didn't seem like a serious question.
Yeah.
Be a dog or be a cat? This is weird, but I'll take it.
That's tough now that I think about it because I like dogs more than cats. I do have a cat, but I've always liked dogs more. And you would think it'd be cool to be a dog, but if you ever saw a dog get into a fight with a cat, the cat whoops that dog's ass. So the cat is a little more ferocious, even though you can't tell just by looking at them.
I mean, the two things I was thinking of immediately is like, I feel like cats have the better mobility between the two.
Mm.
And the other thing is, if we're talking about interacting with humans, like, it's much more accepted for a cat to be an asshole than for a dog, right? Like, if you're a cat, you can basically just do whatever you want, and people will be like, ah, yeah. And, like, they'll be happy if you show them any attention, right?
Yeah.
If you're a dog, you're, like, expected to, like, behave to, like, every command and shit. It's like, fuck yell.
Yeah, you get sent to school if you don't. So, yeah, maybe cat might be the way to go there.
I mean, in the human environment, cats have, like, a much more chill life. And,
yeah,
like, I mean, I guess there aren't that many, well, no, there are wild dogs, but, like, I was gonna say, like...
No one expects a cat to fight an intruder that breaks in the door.
Yeah, it's like, why can't you fight the intruder? It's like, what do you want?
Exactly. The cat's like, I'm just hiding under the couch. Hope y'all have fun with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm definitely, like, I definitely go cat. I mean, oh, wow, that's perfect 50-50.
Whoa. Yeah.
Which is probably the thing where, again, that there's probably been, like, literally 2 people who have voted on this before. Yes. That brings... All right. Yeah, no, but, like, I think the cat is probably the better option. I don't know if I'm a cat person or a dog person, but I'm probably, in the grand scheme of things, a neither person, which, I mean, people always say, like, people that don't like animals are a red flag, but it's like, it's not that I dislike animals, just that I'm, like, allergic to them.
Yeah.
I think in terms of just, like...
I was always allergic to cats when I was young, but I kind of grew out of it in my... Actually, I didn't grow out of it until late 20s, I believe. It hasn't been long.
I mean, they always say, like, if you have allergies, usually... They say you would grow out of it. Like, there are a lot of things where I say, like, oh, you might grow out of it in puberty. If you still have it afterwards, suck it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either that or I have a hypoallergenic cat now.
Oh, wow.
Could be.
I feel like you'd know that, but...
Or exposure therapy, maybe? I don't know. Either way, it doesn't affect me anymore. But it always did when I was younger.
Yeah, but first of all, I'm allergic to both dogs and cats, and also horses.
Oh,
and I'm pretty sure those were the only animals that I was tested for, so, probably, like, a lot of animals. I don't, like, in concept, and, like, with, like, the personal experiences I've had with them, I guess I would, as a general matter, probably prefer dogs. But I do quite like, like, nice cats are actually really nice, too, right? But, like, you don't really get a lot of those.
Yeah.
I mean, cats are also more self-sufficient, which is also a cool thing. Especially if you can't have animals in the house, right?
Exactly.
We actually have cats. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but we have... Well, my dad and my uncle have... they inherited this... basically weekend home, right? And we have cats there that live in a barn that is, like, next to the house. And, like, they have the barn as, like, an indoor space, and otherwise they go outdoors, like, at their leisure. And we have, like, a neighbor there who feeds them if, like, no one from us is, like, there, because, again, right, mostly
I was
on the weekends and stuff. But, like, yeah, it's, like... So, I mean, obviously, it's convenient that we don't have to take care of them all the time, because there's someone else there, because, obviously, we don't live there permanently, but...
yeah.
But, like, that is quite nice, right? Because it's like, oh, yeah, the cats don't go indoors. Well, I mean, one of them tries quite often, but usually they don't go indoors into, like, the actual living space, so you don't have to really worry about the allergies as much. And one of the cats you can actually pet.
Oh yeah.
The other ones are much more scared. They run away. But like none of the cats that we have there are actually like aggressive or something like that. Because sometimes people have cats and they're like they'll scratch you.
Oh yeah.
If you're like a stranger or they'll be like, oh, pet me, and then all of a sudden they're like, not anymore. Stop.
They bite.
They just it's like, fucking hell, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
But like our cats are like really nice. Like if you're a stranger, that probably you're never gonna get to see them. But and again, like two of them are like pretty scared to begin with. Like even I can't pet them most of the time. But like, and the other one's like incredibly cheap. Like you can pick him up, you can pet him, like whatever, and like he never gets aggressive. Like if you pick him up and you like sit him in your lap or something, and then it can be that he like tries to climb a little bit, and then obviously the claws come out for that. But like he never like scratches. Like he'll be with his claws in your clothes, and like trying to climb up or like trying to like
Oh yeah.
But it's not aggressive, and you can just like you literally like just pick up his paw and be like, like,
oh yeah,
stop it. So yeah. So in that sense, like that kind of a cat, I actually do quite like, maybe more than a dog. But most cats also aren't like that, so it's like.
Oh yeah, no. I got lucky and got one with a decent personality. He's not really one of those that just expects you to leave him alone. Like he'll, like if you sit somewhere, he'll come sit in your lap. And
yeah.
You can pet him without him trying to bite or scratch or whatever, and he's not like aggressive about food. He's not aggressive about anything. I got lucky because if I would have got one of those cats, I would have probably given it back.
Yeah, so it sounds pretty much like the one cat that we have there. So yeah, that's no, but like those kinds of cats, like I think they're almost nicer than dogs because they can like. They might seek like your attention like when you're around, but also like when you're not around, they're probably still pretty self-sufficient, right? So it's like
yeah, and he does whatever he wants.
If you leave a dog alone for too long, like chaos is going to ensue.
Yeah, exactly. Like now, I keep the door shut so he doesn't run up in here and like run in front of the screen or whatever. But a dog would be like scratching at the door, like, "Hey, let me in, bro." The cat's just probably asleep somewhere, so he's cool.
Sometimes our cat does a thing where like he'll meow like right in front of the front door when he wants food.
Oh yeah.
But like otherwise it's pretty like it's pretty chill. Like sometimes you like sit in the living room, it's like 2 rooms away from the front door, and you like hear the meowing in the background. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a tuxedo cat, so he's very vocal. If he gets hungry, like anytime you walk into the kitchen, he's just wow, 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 and he won't stop until you feed him.
I swear to God, cats is also like you'll feed them and like they'll eat their food and they'll be like meow. It's like
exactly. Yes. Yeah, it's like, what else do you want? Like, he won't make a sound if you're not in the kitchen, but as soon as you walk in the kitchen, he won't stop.
But yeah,
even if he still have a half a bowl of food and just wow, wow.
Oh yeah, I find it the funniest whenever like the cat is sitting there and his bang is like, "There's food in your bowl." It's like
exactly, yeah. He's just hoping for something better.
But yeah, I guess that probably does it for the second topic. Which brings us to the last segment of the show. Leave us on a high note. The songs of the week. What is your song of the week?
This time I have picked Sturgill Simpson. Remember to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any reason to dislike it.
Everybody loves a good post-apocalyptical theme, right? The interesting thing about Sturgill Simpson, do you know anything about Neil Young and his past?
I mean, I know one or two Neil Young songs, but no, I don't know anything specific. No.
So he was a folk rock artist that one day decided he was going to go against the label's wishes and switch over into country, right? And the label got really mad about that. So he went back and made 2 extra albums that his heart wasn't in, just to finish up his contract with the label. And they were, traditional folk rock. But the first album he put out back on the label was this post-apocalyptical album called Trans. So, and then he goes off and does his country thing. And, 50 albums later, he's made all different kinds of music. But Sturgill Simpson was this guy who started off in country, and then he switched over to psychedelic country when he got really into hallucinogens. The label, he became huge. He started winning Grammys and country music awards and whatnot. So the label is like, hey, we need more traditional country from you. He pulls a reversed Neil Young and releases this rock album that's post-apocalyptical rock album, just like Neil Young did, but in reverse fashion, and did this whole thing. And then after the label was pissed off and satisfied that they got an album, he went back and started doing like bluegrass and whatnot. But it was a very interesting story that he did exactly what Neil Young did in reverse. And if you ever look at the album cover for the Trans album, you can definitely see that this album right here was made from that album. It's pretty interesting. If you ever get a chance, look up the Neil Young's Trans album cover and then compare it to Sturgill Simpson's album. I can't even speak anymore. Sturgill Simpson's album cover. Right
Okay.
there. Jeez.
It's always interesting, right? Because sometimes you feel like it sounds like just like the executive meddling thing, right? Where it's like they were like, oh yeah, what you to make this kind of music, and like sometimes it's like you gotta trust the artist a bit more, right? Like they have problems with somebody.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have the exact opposite thing, right? That I feel like they say that about authors a lot, where it's like, oh yeah, if once you're a successful author, like editors will all of a sudden just be like doing like checking your spelling and grammar, but they won't really do a lot of like story edits. And some authors is like, this, right? It's like your work gets worse. It's oftentimes like gets bloated, where it's like because the editor is not cutting down as much as they used to, and it's like maybe they should have been a bit more active there. And it's like it feels like there's always a balance where it's like between like the executives and the artists, where it's like editors aren't exactly executives, but there's always that thing, right? Where it's like the artistic vision versus like the executive meddling, and there's always this balance where sometimes it's like they went too hard into that, and it's like sometimes you have movies where it's like, oh yeah, it's like this is clear, like the studio wanted it to be done this way, and it got done this way, and like there's like no clear artistic vision in there anymore. Like they might have been one to begin with, and then like they were like, oh, focus group said this, and like test screening said that, and like change this, that, and it's like fuck and then other times it's like someone should have really had a second look at it. I mean, obviously not maybe in movies as much, because obviously movies tend to have like huge crews and cast and stuff, but like it's this always fascinates me, right? Like this sort of balance between like more like the money people and the artists, where there's always like this give and take, and sometimes I feel like the executives get too involved, and sometimes they don't get involved enough.
Yeah, I mean, true. Yeah. I mean, we've all seen the case where the artist takes it a little too far, like they get too far out on the limb, and then people just aren't buying it anymore. Like you went a little too abstract, whereas the label could have reined them in just a little bit. But also, you've seen the artists that get way too generic and polished, and then their music just doesn't have that edge anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, like, oh yeah, he went against the label and they made this. It's like, yeah, but this is cool. It's like,
it is. Yeah, it's a great album. It's a really good album.
I mean, I can't speak to how successful it is, which of course for the label is going to be the most important thing. But is it?
Well, I think it's the same thing with Neil Young. The albums didn't do that great because it's not their original style of music. Well, for Neil Young, it was. It was because he was a folk rock artist. And he wanted to do country, but the label got mad, so he went back and made this post-apocalyptical rock album. And for for Sturgill, he was a country artist, and the label wanted more traditional country, so he made a post-apocalyptical rock album.
It's hard to force artists to make art when their heart isn't into it. It's like, it's like, if you phone it in, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, but both those albums are great, though. I'll tell you that. Like, I enjoy both albums.
I mean, fair enough, but
even if it is,
I feel like you gotta kind of work with the artist where it's like, okay, we want this thing, you want that thing. Let's figure out how we can like make this happen so we're both happy with it. So like you can put your soul into it and we feel good promoting it, right? It's like,
yeah, absolutely.
I just made a bunch of observations and I have absolutely no solutions. But this segment is really just about the songs. We kind of went a bit far with it, anyways.
Yeah, definitely.
My song of the week, if I recall. This was the week. Oh yeah, my song is "White Wedding" by Billy Idol.
Hey little sister, who's your Superman? Hey little sister, who's the one you want? Hey little sister, shotgun. It's a nice day to start again. It's a nice day for a white wedding.
Boom, 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 boom. Billy Idol. Yeah. You a big Billy Idol fan?
I mean, not really. I mean, there's a couple. I feel like there are very few artists that I'm like a big fan of. But there are a lot of artists where like I like a couple of songs, right? Like Billy Idol, White Wedding, Rebel Yell, Eyes Without a Face. There, one or two that I'm not thinking of. But like, it's like there's probably like 5 really good Billy Idol songs that I could think of, maybe at best, right? Like right now, I just thought of 3. It's like, so not really a big fan, but also like he made some songs I like.
Yeah, I feel like he was probably the most punk imagery that you could get away with and still be in the pop genre. He took it. He took it as far to the line without crossing it as they would let him, and still be on a pop record label. Because he had the imagery. He could easily just slid right in the lead singer of the Sex Pistols after Sid Vicious died or something like that. He fit the look, but he's still making pop music on a pop label.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a point. Yeah, honestly, I don't have much to say about that. It's like, yeah.
Oh yeah, I still love him though, man. Yeah, it's fascinating to me when artists want to, they start off in a certain or a certain genre, and they want to push it. Madonna has done this. What's the Lady Gaga? Artists like that. Like traditionally, you don't see pop just pushing the envelope like that, but certain artists come along and they're like, yeah, I'm pop, but I'm still dangerous and wild, and I can still dress ridiculously.
Yeah, it's like it's more interesting, right? Because I don't know, right? If you turn on the radio and there's there's a dozen different pop songs that are playing like on repeat basically, and they also all sound the same anyways. It's like great, whatever, right? And then if someone comes along and it's a bit more experimental maybe, but it's like still in the vein of pop. It's like, yeah, you're doing something a little different, right? It's that thing where...
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you mentioned Madonna, right? It's like, I mean, a lot of what she did is also like the more like the provocative stuff, right? Like right with like the... religious imagery where people were like, oh, Black Jesus, it's like, no, he's supposed to be a saint. Like, there was actually a real guy. Fuck off. But also, yeah. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, during the Satanic Panic also.
I mean, obviously, Lady Gaga is mostly known, I feel like, for the wild outfits. Although, her music also never sounded that generic, though. I mean, her songs, like, between one another have a bit of a similar sound, but I feel like she didn't sound like other pop artists at the time.
Yeah, at the time, definitely. Yeah, I'll agree with that.
And I feel like that's also, like,
definitely
a bit of a thing, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, if everyone starts sounding the same, then that's also kind of boring.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's record labels, maybe not so much these days that anyone can promote themselves in music, but if you look at from the 50s to the 2010s, record labels were just pumping out generic artist after generic artist with whatever genre was popular at the time, trying to just weed out whoever is gonna make those big hits. Like Lady Gaga comes along, or Madonna comes along, or a Billy Idol comes along. Like those are very few and far between, and everybody else kind of sounds the same. Kind of looks the same too.
When you said like from the 50s on, I was thinking like, I think it wasn't like the 50s and 60s where they also had like this big trend where like black people were making really cool music and the labels were like, we need a white guy to sing this.
Sun Records. We just talked about this on our channel. Sun Records did that because they were producing all those early black rock and roll artists. And the rock and roll was a brand new art form. It grew out of the blues and rhythm and blues and jazz tempos and things like that.
I remember like a lot of the I remember hearing about it's like a lot of the blues and jazz stuff. It's like, well, I mean, if we want white people to listen to this, we need a white artist to perform the song. It's like, and they're like, they were just like, hey, let's repackage and have a white guy sing it. And it's like, and like most of the time, obviously, the white guy versions were like worse. I mean, they were still not bad usually, but like they just don't have
they
that
sold
energy.
more.
It's like,
you think about Sun Records was pushing Fats Domino and Chuck Berry, Johnny B. Good and whatnot. These were hits, early rock and roll. These were hits, but you can hire Elvis and Johnny Cash and Jerry Lee Lewis to come and do that style of music, and they sell so much more because most people buying the albums are white people, and they like that genre, but they want to see a white person do it. So Sun Records put out, they were putting out all the black artists, but they came up with a whole lineup of white artists that do the same style of music that they can put out, and sold a ton more records off of it.
Yeah, and again, all that's literally the same songs. It's like, it's just a different artist singing it. It's like,
yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of everyone sounding the same, I was like,
yeah. It feels like there were only a few songwriters in those days, as we found out playing Hurdle there. It feels like there's like only a few people writing songs in the entire world, and all of these artists are sharing the songs.
I mean, to be fair, that was also before they really established copyright in the music context, where, like, covers are still fine to this day, but back in the day, you could also just like use a riff from someone or something like that. It's like, or like rewrite the lyrics a little bit, and it's like these days it's like either you do a straight cover, or you need to get a license, and you need to pay royalties and all that shit. It's like fucking hell. Music used to be like a much more collaborative thing, not maybe in the sense that like people would constantly jam together, although that's also a thing, but it's like, you take a bit from there, you take a bit, and like you can't really be inspired anymore because like copyright infringement.
Yeah, absolutely.
And weirdly enough, still the music sounds very samey these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Covers are one thing too, because you can play a cover live with no repercussions, but as soon as you try to sell it on some kind of media, whether it's MP3 now through the internet and whatever, or on a CD back in the day, then you have to pay royalties on it. But like you said, in those early days, they were just doing it.
My understanding is that straight up covers are usually legal without a license, although definitely something that you would want to look into before you actually do it. But I think I want to say there was something. I think there's a specific cover for covers.
Well, you have to get permission and pay royalties if the original artist requests it. If it's being sold, like if you put it on an album and actually sell it, but you can. The way I
remember hearing it is like if you use elements of someone else's song, you have to pay them, but if you use the entire song, you don't, which is always seemed weird to me.
I'd have to look into that because the way I've always understood it is that if you're selling it, you have to pay royalties. But if you're doing it live, you don't have to.
I mean, you might still theoretically have to, but it's hard to really go after someone. But I remember the story where it's like Weird Al has to always ask for permission when he makes parodies of a song, because he's using the beat of the original song, and the only time when it would have actually been fine, I think the Nirvana one was one where it's like, oh yeah, he could have technically done it without permission because he was actually parodying Nirvana, and if you do a parody of someone's music, then it's fine. But if you just use their music to do a parody of something else, then it's not fine.
That is crazy that the law actually protects parody, but not covers.
Dude, copyright law is, first of all, complicated, and second of all, stupid. Intellectual property rights, at the end of the day, only serve the big corporations again, right? Because if you're like a small independent artist and someone steals your song, like, have fun trying to like finance the lawyers to actually sue them.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, but I don't know if you were leading up to that, but Weird Al, he did have a problem with Coolio when he was doing Amish Paradise.
Which is clearly a parody of Pastime Paradise.
Yeah. And Gangster's Paradise by that time also.
I mean, yes, but the whole point is like, Gangster's Paradise in itself is just a copycat song, basically. It's like,
absolutely.
This ain't even your song! Like, chill!
Yeah. Yeah, and he still got mad about it.
Yeah, it's like, you basically sampled an entire song, and now you're like, hey, you can't take my song? It's like,
it's not even your song. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I think that's probably enough for the song discussion, but just to say that, I guess, you know what, do some self-promotion before we go out of here.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to check out me and Hollywood talking about a lot of songs, you can come over to the Trash Talkers channel. It'll be down in the description. There'll be a link down there. You can click on it. Other than that, if you want to hear some sports, I do a song with JJ on the Beyond Football channel. Maybe there's a link down there also. Did I say JJ? I mean, Alex.
Yeah, try that whole like Beyond Football thing again.
If you want to hear me and Alex talk about football, there may be a link down in the description. I'm not sure if you put that link also. Yeah. But either way, if you want to hear me talk more, I'll try not to stumble over words like I did today. But any of those links will work. Hit us up.
And that brings this episode of the Trash Talk Podcast to a close. If you enjoyed it, leave a like if you want to see more of this. Like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you want to talk to us, leave a comment or join the Discord. Links in the description below. Smokey.
That's it.
That's it.